Hi, my name is Kaitlyn Lindgren-Hansen. I'm a PhD candidate in the Religious Studies Department at the University of Iowa, and my research focuses on spiritualism in the 19th century US and the ways that women used fiction writing and other forms of media to negotiate their relationships to that religious movement. This summer, I worked as a humanities for the public good intern with the Multicultural Development Center of Iowa and Estig Planning. MDCI is a nonprofit in Iowa City that brings education and economic support to BIPOC communities in our area through both programming and outreach. And Estig Planning is, as you may have guessed, a planning group. But one of the things that I think is really cool about Estig Planning is that they also practice environmental and community-based planning methods that uplift underestimated communities, because oftentimes in urban planning, underestimated communities are thought of last in the planning process and often suffer a lot of the kind of runoff of those projects. So Estig's mission is really to put those communities first in the planning process, which I really appreciate. So I worked on two projects this summer. I worked on one for MDCI and one for Estig Planning. So for MDCI, I built a grant database to help expand MDCI's capacity in terms of both finances and personnel. So this was a lot of internal work and research. I had to send a lot of inquiries to like community and national groups to figure out the kind of scope of the grant application process for each grant that we were putting in the database. And ultimately, we ended up adding about 50 grants to the database that included everything from the application process to the application cycle, award amounts, purposes of the grant, all those kind of things. And you would think, that sounds kind of like, how is that really going to help the broader community? But we really hope that it does, because one of the things that I discovered as I was working on this project is that this information is not publicly available, and it makes it very difficult for especially small nonprofits with a smaller capacity, just in terms of the people working at them. It makes it really difficult to apply for grants or to demystify the process in any kind of way because the information is very sparse. So we hope that this doesn't just benefit MDCI, but that eventually this database can be a public-facing document for anybody in our area or otherwise wanting to apply for a grant, especially for nonprofits that are really putting in the work and might just need a little leg up or a little demystification for the grant application process. The second project I worked on was for Estig Planning, and I used ArcGIS mapping software to present Estig's inclusive economic development plan to the public. So their inclusive economic development plan, or IEDP, presents information gathered from 100 surveys, 3 focus groups, and 7 qualitative interviews about equitable business practices in Johnson County. And based on that data, Estig developed a plan, but it's targeted towards policymakers to highlight the strengths and gaps of business practices in Johnson County. So I was responsible for creating a story map to highlight some of these findings for a broader audience. And like the grant database, I hope that this project, and I look forward to the way that this project is going to affect people throughout Johnson County, because it highlights not only the information that Estig gathered with those existing and emergent business owners in our community, but it also highlights their voices in a way that you don't see very often. And I think it's a really important part of their inclusive economic development plan, is that the people who should be benefiting from it are front and center and speaking. So through images, narrative, audio clips, and an interactive map that charts over 170 BIPOC-owned businesses in our area, we're really excited for this map to be eventually a centralized resource for aspiring and current underestimated business owners in our area who are looking to connect with each other or to connect with resources. I gained a lot during this experience, but I'll just kind of narrow it down to a couple of things. So the main thing was that this internship reminded me that I have skills from working in academia that are valuable outside of academia, and that I can do things outside of academia. I think we're very trained to think that our skills are only valuable here, that the things that we learn here will only be of use if we're going to get a tenure track job or we're continuing in the academy. And this internship really showed me that that's just not true. And I'm really glad for that because it was a huge confidence boost. So that's great. And then the last thing is just that because of this experience, I feel so much more connected to Iowa City than I ever have before. And I have lived here since 2016. So I've lived here for quite a long time, and I have never felt as tied to the community or the amazing things that are happening in our community as I did while doing this internship. So I hope that I'm able to maintain that connection and to stay in touch with everybody that I talked to this summer and got to work with in the future, because there's lots of great things happening in Iowa City outside the university that are well worth our time and attention. Thank you.